Mariana is the neighborhood babysitter. She charges $7 per hour for the first 2 hours and $8 for each additional hour after the first 2. Write an equation for how much she gets paid total if she works for 8 hours after the first 2. For this problem, we're dealing with hours and amounts of money. So let's start off by figuring out what we know and what we don't know. And we'll identify any variables along the way. So first, let's figure out what we know. Well, our problem says that Mariana charges $7 per hour for the first 2 hours. So let's write down $7. $7 is per hour for the first 2 hours that she works. So we'll write it out just like that. Now what about after the first 2 hours? Well, our problem says that she charges $8 for each additional hour after the first 2. So we write down $8, and $8 is what she charges per hour after the first 2 hours. Great. Now, what else do we have in our problem? Well, our problem wants us to write an equation for how much she gets paid total if she works for H hours after the first 2. H hours? H is a variable. So let's write that down. Here we have H. Well, according to our problem, H is the number of hours that Mariana works after the first 2 hours. Now, again, we want to write an equation for the total amount she gets paid. So we need a variable for that as well. Let's pick X. X can be the total amount that Mariana gets paid. Perfect. Now we've identified what we know and what we don't know. Our next step is to take a look back at our problem and see if we can turn the words in our problem into a mathematical expression. So, let's see if we can translate these words from our problem into mathematical expressions. First, we know that Mariana charges $7 per hour for the first 2 hours. Well, if she charges $7 per hour, we need to take 7 times the number of hours that she's worked. Well, it's $7 per hour for the first 2 hours. So we need to take $7, the amount that she gets paid, times 2 for the first 2 hours. Great. Now let's go on to the next phrase. And $8 for each hour after the first 2. Well, in math, and means that we're adding things together. So we need to put a plus sign there. Now she's charging $8 for each hour after the first 2. Well, we don't know how many hours she works after the first 2. But we have a variable that represents that, H. So here we need to take 8 times H, the amount she charges for each additional hour after the first 2, times H, how many hours she works after the first 2. Then we want to know how much does she get paid total. Well, that's the same as knowing her total pay. So that's X. Now that we've translated these words into mathematical expressions, let's create an equation. Well, let's put it all together. So we have 7 times 2, and we need to add 8H. If we add together these values, we will end up getting X, the total amount that Mariana gets paid. Now we need to simplify this equation a bit. We need to take 7 times 2. If we take 7 times 2, we get 14. And now we have an equation that we can use to find the total amount that Mariana gets paid. If we know H, the number of hours she works after the first 2, we can plug that in for H into our equation and simplify to get the total amount that Mariana gets paid.